The morning sun rose slowly over the rolling green fields of Maplewood Valley, a small town just outside Nashville, Tennessee. The dew sparkled on every blade of grass, and the gentle hum of a distant highway whispered that life was already in motion. Charles Bennett, a man in his late 50s, leaned back in his silver Mercedes-Benz, gazing out the window at the old farm entrance he once called home. He was one of Nashville's most successful real estate developers, a self-made millionaire known for his elegant suits, sharp mind, and cold precision in business. But that morning, the sight before him was not part of any real estate plan. A small figure, wearing a faded denim jacket and dusty boots, was bent over at the farm gate, sweeping away fallen leaves and mud. The girl's brown ponytail danced slightly with every push of her broom. Charles squinted, confused. He hadn't been back here in years. Not since his wife, Lydia, had passed away in a car accident 5 years earlier. Their daughter, Emma, had been only 12 at the time. After Lydia's death, Charles drowned himself in work, building his empire, buying luxury apartments, attending meetings that never seemed to end. He thought success could fill the silence Lydia left behind. It didn't. The car engine idled softly as he stared at the girl cleaning the entrance. When she turned, the sunlight caught her face, and his heart nearly stopped. It was Emma, his only daughter. But what was she doing here, alone, cleaning this place? The last he knew, she was supposed to be in college, studying business management. He had paid for her tuition, sent money every month, though they rarely spoke. Every time he called, she sounded distant, polite, always saying she was fine. Now, watching her sweep the dirt road leading to the barn, he felt something break inside. Charles stepped out of the car. The air was cold, carrying the scent of wet earth and pine. He walked slowly toward her, his expensive shoes crunching gravel. Emma, his voice trembled slightly. She looked up. Her face lit up in shock, then hesitation. "Dad, you're here." Charles tried to smile. "I was just passing through. I didn't know you were staying here." Emma hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I've been here for a few months now." He looked around. The farmhouse paint was peeling. The old red barn looked tired. The wooden sign that once read, "Bennett Family Farm," hung crookedly. "You live here?" he asked softly. She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "Someone has to keep it alive, Dad." He blinked. "But why? You have a home in the city. You should be at college." Emma placed her broom aside. "I dropped out." The words hit him like cold water. "You what?" Her voice cracked slightly. "Dad, I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to just chase money and numbers like everyone else. Mom loved this farm. She used to tell me that happiness is not what you buy, it's what you build with your own hands. I'm just trying to feel close to her again." Charles's throat tightened. For years he had believed money could solve everything: grief, loneliness, emptiness. Yet here was his daughter, standing on the very soil that once symbolized family, teaching him that maybe it couldn't. The wind picked up, rustling the oak trees. From the distance, a yellow school bus rumbled past, carrying children who waved as it turned down the main road. Emma waved back with a soft smile. Charles stood silent, his heart heavy. "I'm sorry, Dad," she said quietly. "I didn't mean to disappoint you." He shook his head, his eyes fixed on the dirt path. "No, sweetheart, I'm the one who should be sorry." The sound of the broom brushing the ground filled the silence again. As the sun climbed higher, Charles found himself helping her. He rolled up his sleeves, grabbed another broom from the barn, and began sweeping alongside her. It was awkward at first, the millionaire in a designer coat working in mud, but something about it felt right. For the first time in years, he felt connected, to the land, to his daughter, to something real. Emma looked at him, smiling through tears. "Mom would have loved this." He nodded, swallowing emotion. "She would have." The day passed quietly, with the sounds of birds, passing cars, and the rhythmic scrape of brooms marking their silent forgiveness. By evening, the entrance was spotless. They sat on the wooden fence, watching the sunset paint the fields gold. The silence was warm now, not cold. Charles finally spoke, voice trembling. "Emma, I never realized how far I'd drifted from what matters." She looked at him gently. "It's not too late, Dad." He smiled faintly, but tears blurred his vision. As the sky turned crimson, he knew this was the beginning of something he thought he'd lost forever: family, peace, and purpose. He didn't know that the next morning, one simple act of kindness would change everything. Auguy. The morning mist lay thick over Maplewood Valley like a silver blanket. The smell of wet earth and fresh hay filled the air. The old Bennett farm, once fading into silence, was now alive again. Hammers clicked, paint brushes moved, laughter echoed softly between the barn and the fields. Charles Bennett stood beside his daughter, Emma, holding a bucket of white paint. His designer watch was splattered with color, his shoes were stained with dirt, and he couldn't have cared less. For the first time in years, his hands felt useful, his heart light. "Careful, Dad," Emma teased, smiling as he accidentally streaked paint across a wooden beam. "You're supposed to paint the barn, not yourself." He laughed, wiping his forehead. "Well, art never was my strong suit." They had been working for days now, repairing fences, planting wildflowers, sanding the porch. The small town folks who drove by slowed their cars, waving or honking with encouragement. Word had spread fast. The millionaire who once forgot his roots was back, rebuilding the farm with his daughter. Sometimes, local kids stopped by on bicycles to help carry wood or paint a gate. Their laughter filled the air like music. Even the old Jacobs truck, a rusty blue pickup, came rumbling by with hay stacked high in the back, its driver shouting, "Looking good, Bennett." Charles smiled, feeling something he hadn't in decades: belonging. Each evening, he and Emma would sit by the wooden fence, watching the sun melt behind the rolling hills. They talked about Lydia, about memories long buried. Charles remembered the laughter that once filled the farmhouse, the way Lydia used to hum as she cooked, how she always smelled like roses and cinnamon. "Mom would be proud of you," Emma said softly one evening, resting her head on his shoulder. He looked at her with tearful eyes. "No, sweetheart, she'd be proud of you." The days turned into weeks. The farm began to shine again, not polished or perfect, but alive. The front gate had new boards, painted white with golden lettering that read, "Bennett Family Farm, since 1987. When Charles looked at that sign, he didn't just see wood and paint, he saw forgiveness carved into every letter. One afternoon, a light rain began to fall. Charles and Emma rushed to cover the newly painted fences. Laughing under the drizzle, they worked together until both were soaked. Cars whooshed by on the wet road nearby, their headlights glowing through the mist. "Dad, look at you," Emma laughed. "The man who once hated getting his shoes dirty." He grinned, dripping water. "Maybe I was just cleaning the wrong kind of mess all my life." The rain softened to a drizzle. From the distance came the sound of a motorcycle engine, a young man from town delivering supplies. He waved, dropped off a box of nails and tools, and sped off, leaving the smell of gasoline and fresh rain behind. Charles watched the road fade into the horizon. "Funny how everything connects out here," he said quietly. "The people, the land, even the weather, all working together." Emma nodded. "That's what Mom always said. Kindness isn't just helping someone, it's becoming part of something bigger than yourself." Her words echoed in his mind long after the rain stopped. That night, as they sat by the fireplace, the orange glow dancing across the walls, Charles opened a folder he had brought from the city. Inside were property papers, legal documents, and a single photograph, a young Lydia smiling beside a newly planted apple tree. "Emma," he said gently, handing her the papers, "I've transferred this land entirely in your name. The farm, the equipment, everything. It's yours now." She stared at him in shock. "Dad, I can't." "You can," he said, voice soft but firm. "You earned it. You protected this place when I forgot what it meant. This isn't just a farm, it's our family's heart. You've kept it beating." Tears filled her eyes. She hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Dad." He held her close. "Thank you, for bringing me home." The next morning, the sun broke through the clouds in a golden blaze. The farm shimmered with dew, the apple trees swaying gently. The cows lowed in the distance, and the hum of passing traffic mixed with birdsong, a melody of life. A few local journalists arrived that afternoon, curious about the story. They took photos, the wealthy man who left the city to rebuild a humble family farm. But when one reporter asked Charles what had inspired the change, he smiled simply and said, My daughter reminded me that the richest soil isn't found in land, it's found in love. The story spread online, drawing admiration across social media. But for Charles, none of that mattered. What mattered was Emma's laughter echoing through the valley and the warmth of home he had finally rediscovered. That evening, as twilight bathed the sky in hues of pink and violet, Charles and Emma stood by the front gate once more. The road shimmered in the fading light. Cars passed occasionally, headlights gliding softly through the mist. Charles rested his hand on the fence. "This entrance used to be just wood and dirt to me," he said. "Now, every time I see it, I feel your mother's smile." Emma looked at him tenderly. "And every time I see it, I remember your tears, Dad." "That's when everything changed." He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. "That was the day I realized kindness isn't a grand gesture. It's in the smallest acts, a sweep of a broom, a shared cup of coffee, a second chance." The wind carried the scent of blossoms from the apple trees. Somewhere far down the road, a bus rolled by, its headlights glowing softly as it vanished into the distance. Charles exhaled deeply, his voice warm. "You know, Emma, for the first time in years, I feel alive." She smiled, taking his hand. "That's because you finally stopped chasing life, Dad, and started living it." The stars began to appear one by one, and the farm lights flickered on. In that quiet, starlit evening, they stood side by side, a father and daughter who had lost everything but found what truly mattered. And though the city lights of Nashville still glimmered far away, Charles knew his brightest light now shone here, in the heart of Maplewood Valley. The morning mist had lifted once more over Maplewood Valley, revealing fields soaked in golden sunlight. The farm stood quietly, strong again, its fences gleaming, the barn doors freshly painted, the words, "Bennett Family Farm," glowing softly in the light of dawn. Charles Bennett stood on the porch, a mug of steaming coffee in his hands. The air was cool, the sky pale blue, and somewhere beyond the apple trees, he could hear the faint hum of traffic from the distant road, life moving forward. It had been 6 months since the day his daughter's plea shattered the walls around his heart. 6 months since the tears that changed everything. Now, the once broken millionaire had found joy not in profits, but in presence. His mornings began with the sound of birds, not business calls. His evenings ended not with reports, but with stories, laughter, and the quiet peace of belonging. He had learned how to listen again, how to feel again. The farmhouse porch had become a gathering place. Neighbors came often, sometimes to share lemonade, sometimes just to talk about the weather. Even the kids from the nearby town loved helping out, feeding the animals or painting old fences with bright colors. Emma had started a small community garden beside the barn. The wooden sign she carved herself read, "Kindness grows here." Every weekend, families came to pick vegetables, share meals, and donate part of the harvest to a local shelter in Nashville. It was her idea, her way of keeping her mother's spirit alive. Charles would often watch from the fence, smiling. He no longer saw acres of land or investment potential, he saw life blooming, kindness spreading. One evening, as the sun slipped low over the hills, he and Emma sat side by side on the old wooden bench beneath the apple tree Lydia had planted so many years ago. The petals fell softly around them, like whispers of time. "Dad," Emma said quietly, "do you ever miss the city?" He smiled faintly. "Sometimes the lights, maybe. But not the loneliness that comes with them." She nodded, resting her head against his shoulder. "I'm glad you came back." He placed an arm around her, his voice gentle. "I'm glad you never gave up on me." A car passed slowly on the nearby road, headlights brushing the gate before disappearing into the evening mist. The sound of the engine faded, leaving behind the soft rhythm of crickets and the scent of earth after a long day's work. Charles closed his eyes, feeling the wind move through the fields. If only Lydia could see this, he thought. But deep inside, he knew she did. Every sunrise, every laugh, every small act of kindness was her legacy, alive in their hearts. He turned to Emma, his voice calm and full of warmth. "You know, sweetheart, when I first built skyscrapers, I thought I was touching the sky. But it turns out, I never reached this high until I learned how to bend down, and love." Emma smiled, her eyes wet with emotion. "That's beautiful, Dad." He chuckled softly. "Your mother always said beauty is in the hands that care." I think I finally understand what she meant. The farm lights flickered on as dusk deepened. Fireflies began to dance near the fence line, glowing like tiny lanterns. The world around them was still, not empty, but peaceful. That night, as the stars filled the sky, Charles walked once more to the entrance of the farm, the place where everything had begun. The gate stood strong, the gravel path swept clean. He touched the wooden post gently, remembering that morning when he had first seen Emma there, broom in hand, love in her heart, hope in her voice. He whispered softly, "Thank you, my daughter, for teaching me what wealth really means." And as he looked up at the night sky, the stars seemed to shimmer just a little brighter, as if Lydia herself was smiling down from above. Yellow Heart. Dear viewers, a message from the heart. Dear viewers, if this story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect. Sometimes, the greatest acts of kindness begin not with money, but with a moment of love, forgiveness, or a simple, "I'm sorry." In a world racing for success, let's not forget the quiet beauty of slowing down, of helping someone, of listening, of returning home to what truly matters. We hope Charles and Emma's journey reminded you that no one is ever too far gone to change, to reconnect, or to heal. Kindness costs nothing, yet it can rebuild everything. If you believe the world still needs more compassion, please share this story. Spread it to your friends, your family, or anyone who needs a reminder that small acts of love can create miracles. Rice Plant Dizzy. Please, dear viewers, take a moment to comment below, tell us how this story made you feel, or share your own act of kindness.